Hello there and welcome to another edition of the Evening Review. My name is Ogito Greig, and this evening in studio with me I have Celeste Muhunduru. She's the National Administrator for the Security Association of Namibia and the Namibia Security Labour Forum. Celeste, what is NSLF and who are the members?
Thank you so much for having me, Ogito, and a very good welcome and evening to the Namibian nation out there. The Namibia Security Labour Forum comprises out of employers and employee representative, which is the Security Security Association of Namibia. We have for the employee representatives, we are having NISO, we are having Natal, we are having NASO, and then we are having PSUN.
Okay, and how many security officers do you guys represent altogether, and how many of the total, or what percentage of the total would that be?
I don't have the total for the union representatives, obviously, but from the Security Association side, we represent 60% of the employers in the country,
okay.
Of which around about 300 companies are registered with BIPA, which roughly works out at around about 20,000 to 25,000 security officers employed within the sector.
Okay.
Yes.
And how would their conditions of employment, their working conditions, how do they vary in Namibia? What are the best case scenarios and what are the most difficult situations?
Well, it varies a lot, especially when they are not our members.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to police them because you have a lot of what we call fly-by-nights companies that are not obviously members of SUN and are not compliant. And security officers are exposed to sometimes horrible working conditions. They're not being paid the minimum wage that they're supposed to be paid. Some of them are not even trained for that matter. And those are the conditions that we are trying to do away with, and that is why we came up, or we decided then to join the forum again, together with the employee force, so that we can be able to combat this. But then obviously this will not be possible because we are not having the regulations currently in place, which has been absent for the past 32 years. And we are still fighting. We're just not getting any feedback from the Ministry of Immigration, Home Affairs to come back to us and sit with us at the table so that we can promulgate the regulations as soon as possible. Because right now the industry is in anarchy.
Sure. Celeste, last week you had a press conference and you guys signed some important documents. What documents did you sign?
So we have signed the collective agreement. That is obviously an agreement between us, the employers, and as well as the employee representatives. Now, the collective agreement comprises of the minimum wage that we had agreed on for the sector, and as well as the working conditions relating to contracts, for example. That comprises of the collective agreement. Okay. Yeah.
After that press conference, I did send some questions to Ministry of Home Affairs, Immigration, Safety and Security. And I don't know if you read the article that I wrote following that, but the spokesperson for that ministry, Margaret Callow, she told me that the ministry is divided into Home Affairs and Immigration, NAMPOL, and the Correctional Services. And that regulations in terms of safety and security would fall under NAMPOL. And so she advised me to approach the senior spokesperson for the Namibia Police, Deputy Commissioner Kauna Shikwambi, to ask her about the regulations. And Commissioner Shikwambi said that it's a labor-related matter, and she referred me to the Ministry of Labour. So perhaps you need to explain to us why does the Namibia Security Labour Forum feel that Ministry of Home Affairs, Immigration, Safety and Security is the one that should answer? Because it seems they also don't understand that they should have anything to do with this situation.
Well, with all the changes that probably happened now with the new administration, in merging with all the departments, so obviously it's probably new staff that is currently there. But in 2023, we did have a meeting with the then Deputy Minister Kashikola, and we did submit what we call a input of where a bill was drafted without the consultation of the security sector.
Okay.
So we then managed to stop the bill from being passed in Parliament, which to date we haven't received any response as to how far they are with this new bill, and as well as the regulations. It's very unfortunate that we are not aware of what is going on. And these are the struggles and the blockers that we have to deal with every single day of the government's side.
Yeah.
We were very lucky actually for the Ministry of Labour that we were able to negotiate and sit with them and explain to them, because it took a lot of consultations to explain to them, listen, it's not just about introducing a wage order.
Yes.
You have to take other aspects as well. You know, you have the employers and then you have the employees. You know, you need to give time to businesses to adjust. And you know, introducing just a wage order within a period of 6 months, there's just no way that the industry would have survived. We would have sat with over 10,000 job losses within the sector. So yes, it is one of those challenges, and that is why we say that we need to come to the table. We need to sit down. Somebody needs to be taken accountability for.
Yeah.
You cannot sit 32 years and still not have a act. It's just baffling.
But take us back a step before we go to the wage bill, which is a very, very important development. But take us back a step. There is a law that regards security companies and security guards. Is that correct?
Yes, there is a law, and this law was promulgated in 1998, and they call it the SEPSOP Act.
Okay.
Act number 19. And that is where SAN was actually the one that introduced this act to the government then in
That's the Security Association of Namibia.
That's the Security Association of Namibia.
It's the Employers Association.
The Employers Association.
Okay, so it's been there since 1998.
It's been there. SAN has been established and registered with the Ministry of Labour since 1992.
Okay, but the law has been there since 1998.
The law has been there since 1998.
But what's the problem with the law that exists?
That is what we do not understand, why it is that it took so long. And that is why we decided, you know, enough is enough. We need to come to the table, because
well, what took the regulations took long? Or what is
the
missing?
regulations took long, because remember when we sat with Dr. Kashikola then,
yes.
There's the private security providers bill.
Okay.
That was going to be tabled
a
total brand new law.
Okay.
So which means the 1998 law was repealed.
Okay.
But then, as I said, there was no consultations done at all with the sector.
Yeah.
So that's why when we became aware of it, we immediately contacted the ministry and we needed to understand why. Yes, we are in collaboration with the Namibian police, but then the Namibian police also falls under the Security Act. And so anything that has to do with the security sector or with security services falls under the Ministry of Home Affairs, Immigration and Safety.
Okay, but the Security Act that has been there since 1998, why can it not regulate the security industry? Help us understand. Explain like we are two. You know, I'm trying to...
You see, It's very difficult because we've been requesting, and I'll be telling you now, for the past 2 years, we've been writing letters to the ED. We've been writing emails to the ED. We still don't have a response. We had a meeting last year with the Cabinet Secretary, and we explained to them, and we wanted to understand, and we needed them to understand that, listen, for us to regulate this industry, we need the regulations.
You need the regulations?
We need the regulations. If we don't have the regulations, there is no way that you're going to be able to regulate this industry.
So we have the law.
Yes.
For 32 years already.
Yes.
But we don't have the regulations.
We don't have the regulations.
And what's difficult to understand is why we don't have the regulations.
Exactly.
But if we had the regulations, then that will help to regulate the industry.
Definitely.
Okay. That now makes sense.
Yes.
Okay. But in the meantime, you as members of the employers in the industry, through the collective agreement, you are trying to regulate yourself. Is that a proper understanding?
That is our main mandate. We are there to protect the interests of the industry. We are there to standardize the industry. That is what we are there for. We are therefore to ensure that all parties do comply and that they do standardize. We don't want for a Republican, for example, if you have to issue a tender, for example, you just take any random company. That company needs to be standardized. If that company is not properly vetted, there is no way that that company can get a tender. And that is why SUN is there for.
So the regulations, if they were in place, then they would provide for the vetting of new security companies.
Definitely.
And what other aspects would be covered in the regulations?
Well, within the regulations, training is part of it, which is the core of regulating the industry, because there is no way that you can just get up tomorrow and you just want to run a security company. You have to be trained. You have to run through certain process. You have to be vetted by the Namibian police. You have to be vetted by other statutory laws. So it's not just about running a company.
But currently, without the regulations, you can do that. I can just register my company, get somebody who's unemployed, tell them to sit on a chair, give them a gun, and start charging. That
is the current situation, yes.
Wow.
This is the current situation, yes. And that is why you see there is so many crimes happening amongst the security officers. You get a security officer, for example, walking from Okahanya Park with a shotgun, for example.
I've seen that.
Up to the destination of work. You have security officers who are not having transport, and they have to ensure that they are at their workplace.
So let's just take a short break. We have to break for a commercial, but please stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Evening Review. My name is Ogito Craig, and in studio with me this evening is Celeste Muhunduru. She is the National Administrator for the Security Association of Namibia and the Namibia Security Labour Forum. Celeste, the government has instituted a minimum wage, started from the beginning of this year for security guards, $13.50. It's a very important development. Tell us a little bit about how we got to this stage.
It has been a thorny road, getting to the $13.50. As I indicated earlier, you know, when you introduce something, especially when it's not within the consultation within a certain sector, then it becomes problematic. And thus then the formulation of the Namibia Security Labour Forum, because we needed to have all stakeholders on board to understand this whole transition. Yes, in 2017, the SUN had resigned from the Namibia Security Labour Forum, of which then in 2023 December they came back together again with the unions, and we then signed them the memorandum of understanding, and that is then after continuous meetings and follow-up meetings that we realized, we really need to get the ball rolling. We really need now to focus and really standardize the industry, because there is no way that if the minimum wage would be coming in, that either the employee representative or the employer representative would be responsible for any job losses, which was going to be catastrophic.
At that stage, the plan was still to increase the minimum wage to $18 an hour. Is that correct?
At that stage, no.
Oh.
At that stage, no.
Okay.
Until the Ministry of Labour came in with a wage order of $18 last year, August.
Oh.
And that's when we then had to give in a second presentation,
Okay.
in just explaining to the minister as to why it wasn't feasible at all,
Yes.
to have that introduction into the market.
You said earlier that it would lead to significant job losses.
It would have led to significant job losses.
How many would you expect?
About 5 to 10,000 security officers that would be sitting without a job, and then we would be looking at about over 100 companies, of which most of them comprises from SMEs or smaller,
Yes.
micro companies. So those are the companies that would have been affected.
But eventually you were able to negotiate an agreement. So what is the agreement now?
So the agreement is as of 15 January
Yes.
2025.
Yes.
All security service providers are compelled to pay $13.50 for the year of 2025.
Okay.
For the year 2026, that will be 16 Namibian dollars.
Okay.
And for the year 2027, that will be 18 Namibian dollars
Per hour.
per hour.
Okay.
Now, we need to understand that on this hourly rate, you still have your statutory or overheads that you also need to add onto this $13.50.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, so you will work at roughly around about $30.30 at the end of the day per hour.
Is that now cost to company?
That is now cost to company,
I
which
see.
now includes your social security, your taxes, your uniform, your transport. That should also be included.
Yes, yes.
So it shouldn't be a scenario where the $13.50 and then you still want to deduct the uniform and you still want to deduct your statutory or your overhead costs. That will not work, because
Yes.
obviously then what will the security officer take home? So the $13.50 goes straight into the pocket of the security officer.
Well, that's how it's supposed to work.
That's how it's supposed to work.
Okay. So I'm assuming that the Security Association of Namibia members adhere to that. But do all security companies in Namibia adhere to that?
If you are not a member of SAN, we don't have the mandate to police you, so we don't know.
Okay.
But our members definitely, as part of our compliance procedure, and we are having a process where you have to declare that you are compliant, and our members do submit proof of this compliance, and that is by showing us, ensuring that the pay slips are as stipulated within the collective agreement as well that we have currently signed.
The reason I asked the question is because last week at the announcement of the collective agreement and the updating of the Labour Forum agreement, there was a plea made to the Central Procurement Board of Namibia not to award contracts, government contracts, to security companies that don't adhere to the minimum wage. Why was that plea necessary? What is happening?
Well, we also had to sit with the Central Procurement Board because we realized that is where the biggest loophole was. So we have what we call the cost structure.
Okay.
So we had to sit down with them and explain to them, well, if you have to award a tender at a $13.50, for example, these are your statutory costs that you need to factor in.
Yes.
Now, normally, the procurement board have what they call the lowest bidder.
Okay, yes.
And the lowest bidder was that section, or that line itself was misunderstood and miscalculated. So then what will happen, if there comes out a tender, and there is a tender that is at $11.50, for example,
Yeah.
then they will take that tender for $11.50. Already, you are not in compliance of the labor law.
Yes.
If that is the case.
Yes.
So that is why we sat with the procurement board, of which they have corrected already, or they should have corrected already, after numerous consultations with them.
Okay.
So they should have aligned already with the minimum wage, hopefully.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So they should have factored in that the costs at which any security service provider can tender needs to include at least the minimum wage for the security guards.
That is correct.
But now, even in our discussion today or this evening, we've already seen two examples where it seems that the government is not speaking to itself. You have a minimum wage order, but you are still awarding tenders to people who are not adhering. You have regulations needed to regulate industry that falls under a ministry, but the ministry is not able to answer questions regarding to the regulations without referring those questions to a totally different ministry. Do you think that when it comes to security issues, we can get to a point where everybody speaks to each other and understands each other, or are we stuck in these silos which separate all the different players and prevents coordination?
I'm not able to answer on behalf of the government, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Whatever happens in the department, it's within their sectors. But what I can speak for is that we, as the Security Association of Namibia, we are here to ensure that we advocate and to ensure that all stakeholders do come to the table, and that they are aware of these standards that needs to be brought up to standard.
Okay.
We are advocating also to create alliances with not just nationally, but we also benchmarking with South Africa, we also benchmarking with Botswana, we also benchmarking with Zimbabwe. We also have the opportunity to benchmark with international associations as well. And just recently, Namibia had the privilege to attend a security summit in Botswana, for example. And out of that summit, they actually are going to start a regional security association. So there is still a lot of work to be done to bring all parties together to the table, to make them understand what the security sector really entails, so that we can be able to put these regulations in action, and so that we can be able to hold teeth. Otherwise, there won't be an industry.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, Celeste. We've got about a minute left. Do you have one last message perhaps for clients, people who use security services? What should they keep in mind?
Well, I would like to ask the security companies to please become freedom of association.
Yeah.
is our constitutional right. Yes, but let us do the right thing. Let us advocate. Let us become members of SAN. Come and learn. Come and see. Come and hear, and let us pay what we're supposed to be paying to these workers, and let us appreciate what they are doing. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. And there you've heard it, ladies and gentlemen. Let us do the right thing. Let us talk to each other. Let us work together. Thank you very much. That's it for tonight's evening review. See you again soon.